Hello, busy parents. Coach Matt here. I help busy parents get fit without crash diets. And today I want to talk to you about the seesaw of change. All right, so here we go. So, got a little slideshow for you. And what you can see here is what I call the seesaw of change. So, it seems obvious and simple at first, of course, that if your amount of pain on one side outweighs the amount of comfort on the other side, that you, a person would, or any person would initiate change, right? If you put your hand on the hot stove, the pain goes, gets heavier, metaphorically, and thus you quickly take your hand off the stove. Okay, that's obvious, right? So, I think we can all agree that that makes sense, that when our pain outweighs our comfort, we are, motivated to make change. Okay. So, um, but if that's the case, if it's so simple, then why do we struggle to make change, lasting change, when it comes to weight loss and fitness? So, here's the beginning of why. Okay. First of all, when it comes to weight loss and fitness, you can see on the left that I've put a bunch of the common top of mind pains, right? Being overweight, feeling low on energy, having tight clothes, running out of breath when you're going up the stairs, eating too much, stuffing yourself, feeling bloated after eating. These are all pains that you are well aware of already. Okay. And there are a bunch of comforts that you are well aware of and desire if you're watching this video, such as being lean and healthy, feeling high energy levels, looking awesome, having peak performance, being able to run and play ball and play with your kids, and eating in a balanced manner, like just day to day, week to week, being balanced with your diet. These also seem obvious. They are obvious. These are top of mind. And so if it really is that simple, if the pains that you see here on your left were so painful, then why don't they just outweigh these comforts that are listed here on the right and make us move in that direction? Why do we struggle to do that? Well, as you can guess, it's not quite that simple. All right. So it's simple, but it's not quite that easy, I should say. Okay. So, sorry. There was the question. If it's so obvious, then why don't we change? Because it's simple, but it's not that easy. Okay. Because there are other hidden pains. Okay. And this moment of this video might be a little painful for you to hear. But also, if you stick with me, I'll show you why that's a good thing. But there are a whole bunch of other pains, and I've only listed 5 here, and there are a whole bunch of other comforts on the next level down. Let's call them like also painful, also comfortable, level 2, deeper level pains and comforts that really are not at the top of mind all the time, consciously. We don't talk about these all the time, but they're there. And they also weigh on the seesaw, right? So let's talk about some of these things for a minute. Giving things up is painful, okay? Such as the foods that you currently like to eat, or the fact that you may not be going to the gym. Uncertainty is painful, such as trying another new diet, right? Or wondering if this new program that Coach Matt has or someone else is going to work. Getting burned. If you've been tried diets in the past, then you're watching this video, most likely you feel burned by that in some way. Making change itself is absolutely painful. Just making a change, just getting out of your bed and going to the gym for the first time in a long time is painful. Okay, there's pain there. And most diets, frankly, are painful, which is why I don't coach diets. But we'll get to that in a minute. Also, there are other comforts that are need to be mentioned and need to be brought to light, right? Staying the same, staying where you are now, as much as it may pain you to hear this, is comfortable, right? Even it can be, two things can be true at the same time. So it's important to say, I don't want to minimize any discomfort that you're feeling by any means, right? So if you are overweight and out of shape and frustrated and sad about that, that's all true, okay? And at the same time, it can be at least in part true that staying where you are now is also comfortable, because it's like avoiding making the change. There's an element of comfort there. It's also comfortable to eat sweets and junk food and drink socially, if not more, and go out to eat all the time with your friends and eat lots of takeout because it's easy when you're busy and you're a busy parent and you get home from work at 7 p.m. and you're not going to start cooking. It's also comfortable to delay making changes. Like I'm going to start that diet, on New Year's Eve or, after the wedding or in the summer, that's comfortable to procrastinate things. And it's also comfortable not to have to cook and not to have to clean dishes. And there's lots of other things that are comfortable about, kind of staying where you are now that weigh on the seesaw. But here's the thing, they weigh on the seesaw in a different way than I showed you in the first slide, which we're about to get to. Okay. So, avoiding some of those other pains that I mentioned in the previous slide, okay, weighs against making change, right? So, avoiding pain goes on the other side of the seesaw, right? So, if you want to avoid giving things, if you have any part of you wants to avoid, and as I said, two things can be true about the same thing, the same person, the same situation. So, you can definitely be very comfortable and uncomfortable and pain and feel a lot of pain about where you are now with your fitness, and at the same time want to still be avoiding the pains of getting burned, making change, going through another diet, and giving things up. And those pains can weigh quite heavily, right? So when you put it all together on that side of comfort and avoidance, there you see the scale is tipped against making change in the seesaw. Okay, so there's a lot going on, and I really just scratched the surface in these 6 minutes. It's simple. Yes, it's a simple seesaw model here, but it's not easy, and it's not just A and B. There's A through Z and beyond. All right, there's all kinds of ways that when I talk to people one to one or in group coaching calls, and I hear their stories, then these examples that I've listed here really get colored in. And then it actually, for you, one of these things may weigh very, very, very heavily, as opposed to someone else where another thing may weigh very, very heavily. So when you relate this to your story, and if I'm coaching you or you're in my free community and we're talking about your story, then I really get to hear where the real pain points are, and that's how you can start to make change, which we're going to get to in a minute. Okay. So there's another issue that makes this making change not easy, right? We can't feel so if you look at this slide, right? Well, wouldn't you love to tip the seesaw in the other direction? Yeah, we would. And we know that we want to be lean and healthy and feel energy, and we want all these things, but we don't feel them so much in the present moment because that's in the future. You can't, maybe you've never been there, or maybe it's been months or years since you've been there, right? I feel them now where I am today because I live in my best possible version of my body that I can today, but you're quite frankly not there yet, and that's okay, but it just makes it a little less tangible, a little more difficult to feel in the present moment. So when you look at these things that are far off in the future, then they don't weigh on the scale as much as these things over here on the right, because these are heavy. You feel them right now, and very tangible and right in front of your face. They're in your head, they're in your heart, and you see them in the mirror. These things, you don't see them yet, you don't feel them yet, so they don't exactly weigh on the seesaw in the same way as some of the other things I mentioned. Okay, so I've showed you why this is simple but not easy. Let's talk about how we can make it easier. Okay, how can we tip the seesaw in the direction of making change? Okay. First, you got to recognize that doing the things the same old way won't get you there, right? So, as I just pointed out, right, doing things like this, going through programs and fad diets and things that make you give lots of things up, and they're uncertain, and they typically have burned you before or tend to burn people. And most diets, frankly, they just don't lead to this stuff on the right. They just rarely ever do. So you need a new approach. So the first thing to say is it's time for a new approach. Okay. All right. Next thing I want to say about this is, move my head out of the way. To achieve the things that to become the person that you want to become, to achieve the things that we talked about in the beginning of this presentation, you need to work backwards. Okay. And so what does that mean? It means, get my head better, working backwards, right? So to become someone who is lean, looks and feels awesome, is full of energy, and has balanced eating habits, you must first master the set of nutritional skills that that person, not you now, but you in the future, possesses. Okay. And those are skills such as energy balance, planning and preparing. And there's a whole list of other skills that, like regulating emotions without food and many, many others that they don't typically teach you in school, although you can learn about them in my free school for parents, that you need to master. And that once you do, you will be that person that you know you can become. How do you master those skills? Well, reversing it forward, backwards another step. This is done through consistent daily and weekly practices that are not super sexy, and they can be flexible. They should be flexible, in fact, done consistently over time. So, an example would be like planning and preparing, right? So, if I put out an Instagram reel or a YouTube video about planning and preparing, and I probably will, it probably won't go viral because it's not as sexy as, the carnivore diet or the cucumber juice diet or whatever, right? However, planning and preparing your meals to whatever degree you can each week will move the needle on you over time, on your health over time, right? So the good news here is this stuff is really simple and attainable even for busy parents. It doesn't mean you have to cook every meal. It doesn't even mean you have to cook it all. We'll get into specifics about that. You can learn all about that in my free school for parents. The link there is below. But what I'm telling you is that you can do it no matter where you are. You can make changes that stick, and they can be flexible. You don't have to give everything up, nor should you. That's actually one of the main reasons why those other diets have burned you in the past, if you've tried those kinds of things. Okay. So, first step is recognizing that it's time for a new approach. Second step, you're going to have to start to work backwards, start to reverse engineer the practices that will build up the skills that eventually become automatic and make you become the person that you want to become, the new version of you. Okay. Another element I want to touch on is beginning to shift your mindset. Okay. I won't lie to you. This process of making change will require some short-term pain. That's why it's very important to focus on this process of becoming a new version of yourself. Okay. And I help coach you through this in my free community. Very soon, as soon as you get started, in fact, you're going to have some tangible wins that will start to weigh on that side of the seesaw that will help you stay in the direction of making change. But more importantly than having some tangible wins, I say is that they will come at a sustainable pace, right? So, in other words, I can make you a diet plan that will help you lose 10 pounds in a week, right? But that is not only scary and not healthy and dangerous for many people, it's also something that you'll never be able to stick to. So, that's something you can quickly Google, how do I lose, 10 pounds in a week or two? And you can very quickly find some kind of cleanse or crash diet. But if you've tried those before, you know that they lead to many of the other things that I mentioned before in blue, such as being burned and rebounding. Okay. So it's about stacking up small wins in the beginning and sometimes medium or big wins in the beginning, but stacking them up at a sustainable pace. And when you do that, when you start to little by little shift your mindset around this process and the approach of becoming the new version of you and consistency, new pains will begin to emerge. Okay. This is where this is basically where your whole life starts to change and you will never go back to the old version of you. Okay. So what do I mean by new pains will begin to emerge? You start to develop new positive feelings. And these start to replace old negative ones that we previously covered on some of these slides. You'll start to see some of the things that were making you comfortable before, like eating sweets or eating lots of takeout or, doing some of the other comforts that, are actually comfortable. Those will become painful to you, right? With enough consistency after a few weeks and eventually months, you will never want to go back to eating lots of sweets in this example, because that would be too painful for you because you are now stepping into the new version of yourself. And that version of yourself doesn't do those things. Okay. And eventually at some point in the process, these new daily skills and practices, they become just flat out non-negotiable and automatic, right? So Like there are just many, many things that I do every day and every week that are non-negotiable, automatic, and I can't even imagine a world where they don't happen because that world doesn't exist. Okay? And these are not complicated things. These are things like me batch cooking, me food shopping appropriately, me doing few certain things in the morning and in the evening, and I can go on. I don't want to make this video too long, but these little things, whatever they are for you, they won't be the same for me or the next person, or even for if you're a husband and wife couple watching this. I coach many couples, and the things that the husband and the wife need to do are completely different, and that's okay. But we can meld those together into one routine for the family. Okay? So eventually, it will become too painful for you to give up who you have now become to go back, and that's how you'll never go back. Okay? All right. It's been 15 minutes. I want to thank you for watching. If you've watched this video, if you found it helpful, give me a like, subscribe. I'm going to be uploading many more videos soon. And more importantly, if you are a busy parent who is looking to get fit, I would love to have you inside my free community. The link will be in the description below and in my bio. It's also there on the screen, school.com/vitality. And you can follow me on social media at my handle on all channels at Coach Matt Freed. All right. Here's to a new you. Here's to understanding the seesaw of change and making it tip in your favor.